Daily check-in. Today's Tuesday, July 21st, and yesterday I recorded the first public daily check-in. This is just a practice that I've been doing for the last couple of months, and I want to do it now every day, consistently, post it every day to, first of all, document. I think it would be very cool to look back in the future and have this daily kind of log of what is going on, what I'm building, what I'm thinking about, what kind of problems I'm trying to solve, what kind of insights I have, and also use that as a practice. And yesterday I talked about the idea of doing drills, which is a very popular concept from professional sports, where you drill a specific movement, a specific technique or exercise to improve that on. And the idea is that you can also translate that and apply that to other areas, right? It doesn't just have to be sports. Right now I'm trying to apply it to content. And I proposed this idea, or I kind of talked about this idea yesterday because I wanted to start doing that. And I also did a drill yesterday for the first time, and it was very, very useful. And so what I did is yesterday I set myself 30 minutes and I put a timer down 2 minutes. So every 2 minutes it would go off and loop. And the goal was that I have 2 minutes to basically come up with an idea for a piece of content and then already start sketching out kind of the rough idea of what I want to talk about, what kind of point I want to make, what the takeaway would be, some arguments, maybe a story. And of course, in 2 minutes, you don't have that much time. And also, what I realized in additional rounds, so I did 15 rounds of 2 minutes, so 30 minutes. And I realized that you need a bit of time to find the idea, and then you start mapping out the idea. You need to write it down. So it was very fun. It was surprisingly successful. So I came up with essentially 15 drafts where I have 15 different content ideas now, and they are already not fleshed out, but already have some substance, so I can take it further. And it really made me realize that when you give yourself a lot of time to do something, this is kind of an old law. I think it's called the Parkinson's law, that work always fills the space that you give it. So if you say, I will take the whole day to do this one thing, then you will probably end up spending the whole day to do the thing. But if you had 5 other things going on, then you would kind of find a way to make it work. Obviously within reason, some things take longer, that's normal, but I think in general it is very, very, very likely that you will end up spending way more time if you give yourself a lot of time. And some things just benefit from being more constrained. And I think that's especially true for creativity. If you are trying to come up with new ideas, then trying to get as many ideas out as possible will lead to better ideas than if you try to just get one good idea out. And I think this is another argument for volume and for getting many reps. I think I'm a very big, I don't want to use the word fan, I don't view it in that way, but I really admire Hormozi, and I really resonate a lot with his way of thinking, even though I do not want to live my life exactly how he lives his life. I still am very inspired by his sharpness and clarity of thinking, and especially his, I would even say, obsession with breaking down ambiguous words and ambiguous terms and even character traits and skills and stuff that we use a lot and think about and have some sort of idea in our head, break them down into specific actions that you can take. And so I think that is a very useful approach. And when you use that with drilling, you can drill a specific behavior. And I'm now realizing that I kind of got led astray. I wanted to talk about something else, but I'm now talking about Hormozi and operationalizing words, which is something very cool, but right now I'm trying to get back to what I was actually trying to say. So in the past, I would have stopped the video here and said, for fuck's sake, and started again, but I will just keep rolling because this is part of the practice. Oh yeah, Now I remember. So if you constrain your action, if you constrain, for example, with a time limit, you say, hey, I will set aside 30 minutes, and I just know if I had set 30 minutes to come up with a content idea, I probably wouldn't have come up with one thing that I like. Because when you give yourself a lot of time to work on one thing, you can spend some time on it, and then you can start overthinking, and you basically end up, and this is, I think, definitely the case for me, whenever I try to come up with something to create, I would spend a lot of time thinking about it and critiquing it and finding all the ways to basically poke holes into this idea, and this is not a great idea because of this and because of this. So if you give yourself a lot of time to do something creatively in the beginning, I'm assuming, then you give yourself too much opportunity to be overly self-critical. But the goal should be to just create for the sake of creating. And so when I set this limitation of 2 minutes per idea, so I have 2 minutes, and even if I think this is a really cool idea, as soon as the timer went off, I had to move to the next one and come up with a new idea. And at the end now, I have a list of 15 topics, and there are actually some quite good ideas in there. And I was surprised by the amount of depth I could find in those 2 minute blocks, in those 2 minute rounds. And this has really shown me that creativity benefits from constraint. And if we think about it, problem solving is something where we need creativity. When we are trying to solve a problem, it means we are trying to overcome a constraint, right? Because in a sense, this is what a problem is. And so it is probably very difficult, I would imagine, to create something creatively when there is no problem. Maybe this is also why a lot of, and this is just a thought that came up, but maybe this is why so many musicians, for example, or artists have had a lot of pain in their lives and had a lot of problems or strong emotions that they then channeled into their music. And it used to be very kind of ambiguous for me to try to understand what is going on there, because you say this person is channeling their pain to their music, but it is really hard to understand what that means. And the way I understood it before was to think, okay, it means that they're emotional while they are playing, while they're making music, and so that colors how they make music. And I do think that is true, but perhaps this is also just a constraint. So for example, someone is going through a hard time, and so they maybe use music to, or art or whatever the creative expression is, to communicate something or to voice something that they cannot put into words. So maybe they are feeling something and they can't really explain it or can't really resolve it, and so they are using music to as a means to process it, to communicate it, to explore it, to understand it. And maybe there are other ways of how limitations shape creativity. And I do think now, from this experience of yesterday, that I will now be very conscious about creating limitations for myself, creating more boundaries around certain things that I want to do, to kind of not force creativity, but to enable creativity to come up more. And I think drills are going to be a very, very powerful tool. I wrote down some ideas today for what kind of drills I want to do. I will probably expand that over time, because this is most likely a very, very powerful way to improve a skill, to, instead of trying to ambiguously improve, breaking it down into what are specific sub-skills. So for example, for content, there is the speaking part, there is the idea generation part, there is the more tactical, like having a good hook, having a structure that makes sense, with arguments, building arguments in a way that makes sense. This is something that I've been not very good at, I would say, which is essentially to make a point, to support the argument, to give an example, then to kind of summarize it or bring it back. and having this kind of cycle of taking people along, because I've noticed that I've tended to go on too many tangents. So I want to explain something, and this, to explain it, I want to give it more context by explaining something else, but then this pushes me into a different tangent, and so I end up going through different paths to try to get to where I originally want to go, and I tend to lose people there. And so this is something also that I want to improve. And probably the best way to improve it is to just drill it. And so I think the way I would do that is to, for example, say I have 2 minutes and I have to maybe like do a split 2-2. So 2 minutes to pick an idea, pick a topic, pick a point that I want to make, write down like what is the main takeaway, what is the argument, like why do I think that's the case, maybe what do I mean by that, and what is maybe one example or one point of proof that I can use to support that argument, and then maybe at the end kind of summarizing it in a way, and then creating this structure, and then maybe doing 2 minutes after that to record and make that point and follow the structure and practice making an argument of saying what you mean, supporting that argument, giving an example, giving a story, and then bringing it back to kind of finalize the point, and then drilling that, doing like 5-10 rounds of this. And this might seem overly methodical. I think that's the word. Overly methodical, but I do think this is how to improve, and I've never really done it, but it does make sense in my mind that it would work really well. And like I said yesterday, I will run this experiment now, and then you will see, and I will be able to tell you, does this work? Is this useful? Is this actually a way you can improve? And I don't see a reason why it wouldn't. So I think it's a pretty obvious yes, but it will be very interesting to do it and practice, and to then kind of have a before and after. And I do think and I do hope that I will improve my ability to create good content from a very, very low level where I would say I am right now, to get to a point where I can actually create good content. And I do think I can get there within a month. I think that is realistic if I take it seriously, which I will. So this was this part. I think my daily check-in is still a little bit unstructured, so I've kind of been just yapping about drills and about learning skills and improving, and this is part of what I want to do. But I also want to kind of give an update of where I am at. So maybe it doesn't make sense necessarily to do that every single day, because where I'm at, what I'm building will not change from day to day, but maybe to give a brief update. No, I don't know. I don't know how I want to do that. So, because there are also some things for clients that I can't really talk about. So maybe short version. Currently, my routine: wake up in the morning 6:30. Usually train at 7. I either lift or train Muay Thai. Then at 8, take a shower, drive to the co-working where I'm at now, work until around 2:30 p.m., drive to my gym, which is basically like a gym and also like a wellness spa type of, not beach club, there's no beach, but kind of like with a big pool, and like it's a very nice place. And so usually go there in the afternoon, get some sun, get a little bit of vitamin D, and then eat something, and then continue working until the evening. And then usually either work until late or go on a date or do some recovery, some sauna, and then sleep. And in between, I do have essentially 3 projects going on right now. I have Railblocks, which is my main focus, my main priority. Then I have this personal brand, which I'm now starting to build. And then I also have some friends who are building something, and I'm helping them a bit, and doing some projects with them. And so I think I want to figure out what the best way is of kind of documenting where I'm at, because I do think that will be very interesting to look back at in the future, to look at where I'm at, where I'm going, and then in a year from now, in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, see, okay, at this phase of my life, I was building this, and I overall want to also document more. Something that I've been struggling with a lot is to record stuff. So sometimes I think it would be cool to record this moment, but I've never really done it. I still feel that I'm still afraid of the cringe, so I need to get over that. And so I think by posting this content here, I'm already starting to build up my cringe tolerance. So this was some random stuff. Hopefully tomorrow I will be a bit more structured, but also have maybe some more interesting insights, and maybe I will have more clarity on what exactly I want to share about what I'm working on specifically. So this was it for today, and I will see you tomorrow.